In the 90s or even the 2000s, investment bankers might have likened themselves to Ric Flair. The industry was full of Rolex wearing, wheelin' dealin', limousine riding, jet flying sons of guns. However, in the modern age, the nature of banking jobs has changed significantly, especially for junior roles, so much so that even the smallest of benefits are being scrutinised and even possibly taken away. Find out why on the Coffee Run. This week's top story is that Santander is overhauling its Asia operations, which involves axing many of the benefits that bankers in the region have historically enjoyed. This includes even the small ones like complimentary breakfasts and official car services to bring staff to the office. In this instance, the cost-cutting is driven by new management. It took the head of its Peruvian corporate investment bank, Alberto Rivero, and transplanted him to Singapore. He's now taking a stringent approach to cutting costs, so the bank can effectively grow its South Asian business. The changes also come with stricter scrutiny for bankers who will now have to justify their existence. Perks in Asia can be particularly lavish, and Santander isn't the only bank thinking of cutting back. At HSBC, for example, mid-level staff are currently able to expense up to 95% of private school fees, a maximum of $38,000 per year per child. Bloomberg reported in April that the bank is reviewing the perk, which costs tens of millions of dollars annually, and it said that other smaller perks had already been phased out. More globally, across banking, there are two key benefits, usually geared towards junior staff, that have been clamped down upon. The first of these is meal allowances, with a catch. Goldman Sachs famously cut its lunch allowances shortly after the COVID lockdowns ended, but it simultaneously improved its after-hours meal allowance from $25 to $30. This means the only people whose meals the bank was paying for were the employees staying late for work. This came after the bank had already cut Seamless, a stipend that allowed workers to expense up to $55 worth of food if they were working past midnight. This was enjoyed by bankers for years prior to the pandemic, but was cut in 2020. Juniors speaking to New York Magazine at the time said these kind of meal stipends were a serious factor convincing people to join banking, and that they were very hurt by their removal. Most banks, like Goldman, just offer a meal stipend for late-night work, and some of them are actually less generous. A survey from IBD Memes last year revealed that Deutsche Bank staff in London received just £19 for meals, while HSBC and BNP Paribas staff received just £20. UBS gives juniors $30 for food when working late. Earlier this year, however, rumours circulated that the bank was planning to cut that allowance. While that turned out to be false, the notion that it could be true caused uproar among junior bankers, who felt the meal allowance was the bare minimum that their respective banks could do for them when they were working 100-hour weeks. That rumour attributed the cut of the perk to AI tools, which were supposedly meant to let juniors finish early and make the late-night stipend redundant. Bankers that we've spoken to have said that AI has had the opposite effect. One told us that AI has made their job even more demanding since senior bankers know about the productivity gains. The other benefit that banks have been cutting back on is, admittedly, one that it never used to have. Remote work was introduced to the banking world by and large through force during lockdown. In the years since lockdown ended, some banks have continued to embrace hybrid work while others have doubled down on the office. Goldman Sachs was the first major bank to demand a return to the office of 5 days per week. JP Morgan followed a few years afterwards, but it was the latter bank which faced the brunt of the outrage, presumably because it has a much larger headcount and many more roles in technology or support functions that could be more easily done from home. Employees started a petition to reverse it, but just 1% of the bank's global headcount signed it. Those that didn't said it would be career suicide to publicly defy Jamie Dimon's request. There have been exceptions to the rule. Amid London's recent heatwaves, bankers have been allowed to work from home. Ironically, given the office has air conditioning, it's one of the few times where working there is preferable. Why is all this happening? The long and short of it is, banks want to cut costs. At HSBC, for example, where that schooling stipend is under consideration, thousands of jobs are in the process of being eliminated as the bank adopts AI. Banks are almost all publicly traded companies, which means there's an increasing scrutiny on them to cut costs because everyone else is doing it. Investing in AI to reduce costs is an expensive, long-term process, so smaller benefits like meal stipends are easy cannon fodder to bring costs down in order to extend the runway for those AI tools to actually be useful. As for the return to office push, banks are spending billions of dollars building flashy new skyscrapers to house their employees, and they need to justify their existence. JP Morgan already erected a flashy new headquarters in New York, and it's planning to repeat the process in London. As the nature of banking roles continues to change, maybe these benefits won't be missed. After all, if AI can let bankers finish at a reasonable hour, then that would be a far greater benefit than a lukewarm cheeseburger from Uber Eats. However, the more likely and more unfortunate reality is that these perks are going to continue to be squeezed while the work only gets harder.